famously, you're supposed to be on the very first Saturday Night Live, October 11th, 1975, which is now celebrating its 50th. So it's unbelievably, it's been half a century. And I've read accounts from you that you're supposed to be on that show, the show that is going to change everything. You're there, you've got a sketch, it gets cut, and you said you were riding like the subway home thinking, that's it.
Yeah.
What I always find fascinating now is if you could see the whole palette of everything, you wouldn't change a thing.
No.
You couldn't. How could it get any better for you? But in that moment.
Oh, boy. And now, Conan, I have to relive it because of the film, of Jason Reitman's wonderful film.
I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, he had a screening for the survivors of that night. And the original, Lorraine Newman was there, Garrett Morris was there, and me. And it was particularly heartbreaking at the time because I was 25 and I was part of the planning of the show. It wasn't just coming to that show that night. Lauren, who I thought was the coolest guy, I'm new into my stand-up life too at that point. I'm only into it like 8-9 months, and things were really going like well. I wrote a lot, and I was really starting to find my way. And I meet this Lorne Michaels at Catch a Rising Star, and he tells me about the show, and so on and so forth, and he said, I'd love you to be on the first show. And then I'm playing the bitter end in New York, and he brings Chevy, Dave Tebbett, who was the head of talent at NBC at the time, Dick Ebersol, Gilda. So I was like part of this. These are the young people who we're going to have on the show. And so I was like, wow, this is going to be the thing. And the comedy guests were Andy Kaufman, myself, and a Canadian comedienne named Valerie Bromfield.
Yeah.
And so I was doing this piece, which I just sort of found out how to do it, and it was by accident. And it's a jungle safari movie of the Victor Mature, Rhonda Fleming kind of the Great White Hunter, and it's a scene where the tarantula's on her body, and he walks across the camp late at night and knocks it off, and they fall in love. That's the scene. I take somebody from the audience, and I have a huge bowl of potato chips that's mic'd, and I get the audience to do bird calls, and every time I take a step, she crunches the potato chips loud, or he does, and it gets very environmental.
Yeah.
I get like 3 people on stage, bird calls, and I'm pointing, and so that was the piece I was going to do, but I was going to use Don Pardo,
the announcer.
He was the announcer with just a close-up of his hands and his wonderful, silly voice. Now what do I do, Bill? That thing.
Yeah.
And so Friday night, there was a dress rehearsal, live audience, and it did really well. And it was a real highlight of the night. The other sketches were so-so, did not.
Yeah.
And there were 2 musical guests, and George Carlin was the host doing like 3 or 4 monologues. So at the notes afterwards, Lauren's sitting at home base. I remember I was sitting between Gilda and Lorraine, and he looks at me making cuts and cuts and cuts and cuts, and he says, Billy, I need 2 minutes. I said, take 2 minutes out? He goes, no, I need 2 minutes. And I went, I'm screwed. I don't have anything that's 2 minutes. It takes 2 minutes just to do the setup.
Yeah.
And I could condense it. I could do that, but Lauren, afterwards, I said, I don't have anything else. He says, well, let's think about it. It's Friday at midnight.
Yeah.
Saturday, I come back. The rundown, I'm on at 12:55, which already is dicey.
Yes.
That's the last comedy spot.
Whenever you'd see, when I was a writer there, whenever your sketch was on at 12:55, you'd think, all it takes is for one sketch to run a little long, and you're going to get nudged into, well, we'll do it next week. But it never, once it's gone, it's gone.
It's gone.
Hard to explain, but it's gone.
So I see that. So I call my managers and everyone. So they come over. And it was, Lauren's putting together his very first show.
Yeah.
It's so hectic. It's crazy. And this is the first one. So I'm just waiting, camera blocking, run through it again. It's coming this wait over here, wait over there. It's not looking good. It's going to be okay. Don't worry about it. So at 8:30, my manager comes out and says, "Come on, we're going." What? We try to get it 5 minutes in the first hour. He can't do it. George is doing 4 monologues, just 2 songs, and so this. Come on, let's just get the hell out of here. And I went, but I and that was it. And then I find myself on the Long Island Railroad, subway to Penn Station, Long Island Railroad, to go home, to call the relatives to say, "Don't watch." I mean, there's no cell phone, there's nothing. You know, you had to dial.
Yes, yeah.
And then the reactions. What'd you do? You got fired? What did you say to the man? What'd you do? Open a mouth? That thing. And I thought, that's it. I'm done. You know, Lorne then brought me back for show 19 with Ron Nesson, who was Gerald Ford's press secretary.
Yep.
He hosted the show. I did that. And then I didn't do it again for 8 years until I hosted.
But then you come back as a cast member.
Yeah.
And again, these things are so much bigger than us, but everyone's trajectory is probably the trajectory they're supposed to have.
Yes.
So you went off and had all this other success, but then came back and was able to dominate on SNL in that season in a very special way that would not have been possible in the first 5 years.
No, I was ready.
Yeah, you were ready.
See, what we had talked about in the beginning was that I was to do like 6 appearances over like the first 2 seasons, and then be sort of the first non-celebrity host. It was like growing from the farm system up. And then I go off. And I end up on Howard Cosell's Saturday Night Live on ABC.
Right.
And then I moved to California, playing places, doing pretty well, and then I get Soap.
You get Soap.
But, you know, so now I'm playing one character, which I really, really enjoyed, learned a lot, great cast, controversial show and character.
Really brilliant, though. I mean, way ahead of its time.
Way, and really one of the real geniuses that I ever met was Susan Harris, who wrote the first 68 episodes by herself.
Wow.
Amazing. But I kept looking back at 8H, going, that's where I should have been. And, you know, I was having a successful time, but I didn't feel like myself. And then I did my first HBO special in 79 that did very well, and another one in 84 that also did very well. And then Dick Ebersol called and said, "Would you host?" And I did 2 that year. And that summer he called me and said, "Listen, I got an idea. If I could get Chris Guest and Marty and Harry Shearer, would you come for a year?" I said, "Let me think about it." Yes. I just knew it was the right thing.
Yeah.
And we packed up the kids and we moved to New York, and I had the time of my life, and I felt like I was where I was supposed to be, but now I was supposed to be there, you know? It all felt right.
You've got a lot of moments to remember, but when I think I had left SNL, I think I'm doing the late night show, but there's an anniversary special for SNL. And I don't know if it was an anniversary special for SNL or maybe a salute to NBC 50. I don't know. There was some salute, something. And you came out as your
Fernando
character.
It was the 25th anniversary.
It was the 25th. Okay. But what I remember is that you come out and Gary Busey is in the audience.
Yes.
And Gary Busey, who's, you know, been through some stuff, Gary Busey suddenly thinks that it's okay for him to just shout out on this live tribute show to Fernando, and he starts heckling you.
Yes.
And you start talking. It was so funny because it was live television, and you don't see that on SNL. You don't see
he came towards me.
Yes. I was there. I was sitting in the crowd.
I'm doing this little thing, and I think I had a minute 45 scheduled, and it's going well. And I look out, and I'm picking up people, and then you know, and I say, well, Gary Busey, you're alive.
You're alive.
And he got mad, and he came towards the set, and I had to restrain
He got
him.
up and starts walking. And then you were doing a great job of having fun with it.
Yeah.
You were so funny and in the moment. And it was electric because you thought, I don't know where this is going. This either, maybe you'll get choked out. I don't know what's going to happen. But you were making it really funny and in the moment. And I thought, I don't see this in 8H. A lot. Sometimes there has to be some improvisation.
Well, the thing about Fernando was they were all improvised.
Yeah.
All the hideaways that we did was so much fun because I wasn't sure what I was going to say until I said it. Mm-hmm. The hideaway set would roll out right in front of the audience, right where the news usually is, right? And it was the booth and all that stuff. And the audience could see that the cue card guys went away. So it was just me talking to whoever the host would be.
Right.
Oh, we had Hulk Hogan and Mr. T, which was very funny. Mm-hmm. And then Barry Manilow, he was playing Radio City Music Hall, and he was scheduled to be the guest in the hideaway. At 10 after 11, he calls Dick Ebersol and said he's not coming. Mm-hmm. He's too scared. He doesn't want to be made fun of. He's nervous about improvising. So he decides he's not coming. So we have a 6-minute slot that Dick says, what do you... So I'm looking around and I see one of our camera guys, his name is Bobby Ferraccio. Mm-hmm. Bobby, did you know Bobby?
Yep.
All right, Bobby weighed about 400 pounds. He was a large man. I went over to him and I said, Bobby, it's a crazy idea. Manilow just canceled. Why? No, calm down. Goddamn Manilow! Would you come into the hideaway with me and play him? And I'll introduce the fact that he's not there, but I can't disappoint my fans, and we'll just do it. And he goes, do I get paid extra? I said, ask Dick. I don't know. And he says, okay,
a little,
okay.
Yeah.
And so we did it, and it was really funny. And he was just so delightful and
real.
And it just, they were all just so spontaneous. That's what the show was supposed to be. And that's the world I love to live in. My year there for me, I used everything in my toothpaste that I had, you know.
Yeah.
I just loved every second of it. But that was an example of really being comfortable and confident with myself. Mm-hmm. And Bobby was great. And then we thought, well, what about for the rest of the season? Nobody shows up, and it's always Bobby. It would be pretty, you know. And he said, no, my neighbors killed me, Bill. My neighbors killed me. He starts singing. I write the songs. He starts singing stuff. Oh, it's really delightful. It was great.